Hello, my dear friends. Imagine yourself walking slowly through Paris in the early 1920s. The city feels quiet, yet alive. The war has ended, but its presence still lingers in the air. Buildings stand tall, cafes glow softly at night, and the streets are filled with people who are trying to remember how to live again. There is beauty everywhere, but also exhaustion. Paris is recovering, breathing slowly, learning how to exist after so much loss. Life in the city moves at a gentle pace, especially after sunset. Street lamps cast warm yellow light onto stone roads. Small cafes remain open late into the night. Inside, people sit close together, talking softly, smoking, sipping drinks, and sharing ideas. Artists sketch in notebooks. Writers listen more than they speak. Musicians rest their instruments beside their chairs. The city feels like a living room shared by strangers, all searching for comfort in their own quiet way. Daily life is not easy for most people. Jobs are uncertain. Money does not always last. Food is simple and sometimes repetitive. Many people live in small apartments with thin walls and little privacy. Yet Paris still feels special. There is a sense that life must be lived fully, because it can disappear quickly. This feeling shapes how people behave, how they spend their nights, and how they cope with stress and memory. Doctors and medical professionals are part of everyday life in the city. Pharmacies are common. Medical advice is trusted, often without question. Some substances are seen not as dangerous, but as tools. Tools to calm nerves. Tools to help with sleep. Tools to quiet pain, both physical and emotional. There is little public understanding of long-term effects. Information moves slowly. Warnings are rare. Trust in authority is strong. Among artists and writers, curiosity is natural. Conversations drift toward ideas of creativity, escape, and altered perception. Some believe that certain substances open the mind. Others see them as simple relief from anxiety or sadness. In small rooms and quiet corners, routines begin to form. Not loud, not dramatic. Just repeated habits that slowly become part of everyday life for some people. Most of the city carries on without noticing. People go to work. Children walk to school. Shopkeepers open their doors each morning. The streets fill and empty again. What happens behind closed doors remains private. There is no sense yet that history is being written. Life feels normal to those living it. Paris continues to glow at night. Music drifts from windows. Footsteps echo softly. The river reflects the lights like moving stars. The city feels calm, almost peaceful. Yet beneath this calm surface, quiet changes are taking place. Changes that will only be understood many years later. As the night grows quieter and the sounds of the city begin to fade, Paris settles into a gentle stillness. People return home. Lamps are dimmed. Curtains are drawn. The city rests, unaware of how deeply this moment will one day be remembered. And here in this calm pause between past and future, we let this part of the story rest. Imagine the mornings in 1920s Paris arriving slowly, without urgency. The city does not rush awake. Shops open one by one. Bakers place fresh bread in their windows. The smell of coffee drifts softly through narrow streets. People move calmly, still carrying the weight of the night before in their posture and expressions. Daily life resumes, steady and familiar, as if nothing unusual is happening beneath the surface. For many, the day begins with routine work. Clerks walk to offices, shopkeepers arrange goods. Artists return to studios that are small, cold, and filled with half-finished ideas. Writers sit by windows, staring out at the street, notebooks open but untouched. Life feels ordinary, even repetitive. And yet, there is a quiet undercurrent of fatigue that seems shared by many. Sleepless nights are common. Anxiety lingers without clear cause. People look for small ways to feel balanced again. Medical visits are not rare. Doctors are trusted figures in the community, seen as calm authorities who understand the body and mind. Prescriptions are written with confidence. Substances are discussed in gentle professional terms. Relief is the goal. Comfort is the promise. There is little fear because the conversation is framed as care, not risk. Many people accept what they are given without hesitation, believing it will help them sleep, rest, or feel normal again. Cafés remain the heart of the city throughout the day. They are not just places to eat or drink, but places to exist. People sit for hours with a single cup, watching the street, listening to fragments of conversation. Regulars recognize one another without truly knowing each other. Habits form quietly. The same seat, the same time, the same routine, day after day. What begins as a social ritual slowly becomes something deeper for some. As afternoon turns into evening, the city's energy shifts. Lights come on earlier than expected. Shadows grow longer. Conversations soften. People prepare for the night almost unconsciously. Some head home. Others drift toward familiar cafes, studios, or private apartments where small groups gather. These gatherings are not loud or chaotic. They are intimate, calm, and often thoughtful. Music plays softly. Candles flicker. Time feels slower in these spaces. Within these routines, certain behaviors repeat themselves, not discussed openly, not questioned often. They become part of the rhythm of life for some individuals, woven into evenings the same way wine or cigarettes are. There is no sense of danger yet, only a belief that this is part of modern life, part of creativity, part of recovery after hardship. Outside, Paris continues to look beautiful and unchanged. Couples walk along the river. Trams pass quietly. The city breathes in and out, unaware that historians will one day examine these quiet routines closely. To those living them, this is simply life as it is now. As night settles gently over the rooftops and windows glow softly across the city, these daily habits blend into the darkness. Another day ends without announcement. Another routine repeats itself, and in this calm repetition, the story continues to unfold. In the Paris of the 1920s, medicine carries a calm authority. Doctors are respected figures, often seen as guides through a confusing and changing world. After years of war and uncertainty, people want reassurance, and medical advice offers exactly that. Clinics are modest, quiet places with wooden desks, shelves of bottles, and the soft scratch of pens on paper. Conversations are gentle and professional. Symptoms are discussed in low voices. Fatigue, sleeplessness, nervous tension, lingering pain. These are common complaints, spoken about without shame. Medical knowledge is still developing. Many treatments are based on limited research, past traditions and personal experience rather than long-term studies. Doctors aim to help their patients feel calm, rested, and functional. Relief is valued. Immediate comfort often matters more than distant risks that are not yet fully understood. Prescriptions are written carefully, but confidently. There is trust in the system, and that trust shapes behavior quietly and deeply. Pharmacies play an important role in daily life. They are familiar neighborhood spaces, not hidden or secretive. People step inside as casually as they would enter a bakery or a bookshop. Bottles and powders are measured precisely, wrapped neatly, and handed over with instructions given in calm tones. There is nothing dramatic about these moments. They are part of routine, woven into everyday errands and responsibilities. For many, these medical interactions feel reassuring. Sleep improves, pain dulls, anxiety softens. At least that is how it seems at first. Life feels more manageable. Work becomes easier. Nights feel quieter. Because these changes happen gradually and quietly, there is little reason to question them. What feels helpful blends seamlessly into routine. The language used around treatment is important. Words like medicine, prescription, and therapy carry weight. They suggest safety and care. This framing shapes perception. What is given by a doctor feels different from what is taken casually. It feels controlled, intentional, and appropriate. In this way, trust becomes a powerful force, guiding choices without resistance. Outside the medical world, life in Paris continues unchanged. Streets remain busy, cafés stay full. Art and conversation flow freely. There is no visible crisis, no public alarm. Everything appears normal, even healthy. The quiet nature of these routines makes them almost invisible to history and the moment. As evening approaches once more and clinic doors close for the day, the city moves on without pause. Lamps are lit. Appointments are forgotten. Another night begins, and within this calm cycle of trust and routine, the story continues to unfold gently, without urgency or awareness. As evening returns to Paris in the 1920s, the city slowly shifts its rhythm. Cafes become warmer, softer places as daylight fades. Lamps glow gently above small round tables. Conversations grow quieter and more thoughtful. These cafes are not loud or chaotic. They are calm spaces where people linger, sometimes for hours, with little more than a drink, a cigarette, and the comfort of being among others. For many, this is where the day truly begins to slow down. Artists and writers often gather in these familiar places. They do not always speak about their work. Sometimes they simply sit and watch the city pass by through fogged windows. Creativity here is not dramatic. It is patient. Ideas form slowly, shaped by long nights and quiet observation. People talk about art, philosophy, memory, and the future. They talk about how the world feels different now, after so much loss and change. In these spaces, routines deepen. The same cafes, the same seats, the same faces appearing night after night. What begins as social comfort gradually becomes habit. Some people look for ways to soften the edges of their thoughts, to quiet restlessness, to make long evenings feel lighter. These choices are not made suddenly. They grow out of repetition, familiarity, and trust in the environment around them. There's no sense of urgency or danger. Everything feels slow, controlled, and personal. People believe they are managing their own lives carefully. They see these moments as part of modern living, part of artistic culture, part of recovery after hardship. The atmosphere encourages reflection rather than caution. No one imagines future consequences. Life feels contained within the present moment. Outside, the city remains beautiful and calm. Couples walk along the river. Trams glide through the streets. Music drifts faintly from open windows. Paris feels timeless, as if it will always exist in this gentle balance between creativity and comfort. The city does not announce change loudly. It allows it to happen quietly, behind closed doors and familiar routines. As night deepens and cafés slowly empty, people return home through dim streets. Footsteps echo softly on stone. The air feels cool and still. Another evening settles into memory. Another routine completes itself without notice. And here, as Paris breathes calmly under the night sky, this chapter of our journey gently comes to rest. As the cafes close and the streets of Paris grow quieter, life moves indoors. Apartments in the 1920s are often small, with narrow staircases and thin walls. Rooms are lit by lamps that cast soft shadows across wooden floors and worn furniture. These private spaces feel intimate and enclosed, far from the public eyes of the street. It is here, in these quiet rooms, that routines deepen without interruption. Friends gather in small numbers. Voices are low. The pace of the evening slows even further, as if time itself has softened. The atmosphere is calm and reflective. People sit close together, sharing stories, memories, and long pauses. There is no rush to leave. Nights stretch on gently. For some, these moments feel safe and controlled, removed from the noise and uncertainty of the outside world. Habits that began casually now feel familiar and comforting. They are woven into evenings the same way tea, wine, or conversation might be. Nothing appears extreme or alarming to those involved. Everything feels measured, personal, and private. Sleep becomes an important topic in these rooms. Many people struggle to rest deeply after years shaped by war and change. Nights can feel long, filled with restless thoughts. Anything that promises quiet sleep is welcomed. Relief is described in simple terms: calm, stillness, ease. Because the effects are subtle at first, the routine feels manageable. No one speaks of dependence. The language remains gentle and reassuring. Outside these rooms, Paris continues its nightly rhythm. Street lamps glow steadily. Trams pass with soft sounds. The river reflects light and movement without concern. The city does not notice what happens behind closed doors, and those inside rarely think of themselves as part of something larger. They see only their own evenings, their own needs, their own quiet routines. Over time, repetition brings familiarity. Familiarity brings comfort. Comfort brings trust. And trust allows habits to settle deeper into daily life without resistance. There is no clear moment when something changes. No sudden realization. Only a slow blending of routine and relief, night after night. As the lamps dim and conversations fade into silence, people prepare for sleep. Windows are closed. Curtains are drawn. The city settles once more. In these quiet, private spaces, routines continue softly, unseen, and unquestioned. Morning returns to Paris slowly, almost reluctantly. Light filters through thin curtains and settles on quiet rooms where the night has only just released its hold. People wake with heavy eyes and gentle movements, taking a few moments to understand where they are and how they feel. The city outside is already stirring, but inside these rooms time feels softer and slower. There is no urgency yet, only the familiar rhythm of another day beginning. For many, mornings bring a strange mix of calm and dullness. Sleep may have come more easily, but it does not always feel refreshing. Bodies rise slowly from beds. Thoughts take time to form. Some people notice a faint distance between themselves and the world, a softness that lingers into the daylight hours. It is not dramatic and it is not alarming. It is simply there, subtle enough to be ignored. Daily responsibilities continue as usual. People dress, eat simple breakfasts, and step back into the streets. Work resumes. Conversations take place. From the outside, nothing appears different. Paris looks the same as it did yesterday. The same cafés open their doors. The same trams glide along familiar routes. Life moves forward without pause. Yet inside, some feel a quiet pull toward routine, a memory of the night before, a sense of comfort tied to familiar habits. These thoughts do not feel urgent or demanding. They feel gentle, almost reasonable. There is no sense of loss of control, only the belief that balance has been found, that life has become slightly easier to manage. Doctors continue their work without alarm. Patients report improved sleep and reduced discomfort. There is little reason to question success. Records are written, appointments scheduled. Trust remains strong. The language of care and relief continues to shape perception, reinforcing the idea that everything is under control. As afternoon arrives, fatigue may appear earlier than expected. Focus drifts. Tasks take more effort. Still, these sensations are easily explained away. The city is busy. Life is demanding. Everyone feels tired sometimes. There is no single moment when concern takes shape, and so the day passes quietly, blending into evening once more. Lamps are lit again. Familiar streets glow softly. People return to known places and familiar faces. The cycle continues, calm and unbroken. As the sun sets gently over Paris and the city prepares for another night, the effects of routine linger quietly, unnoticed by most. And here, in this calm repetition of days and nights, this chapter of the story comes softly to rest. As days pass in 1920s Paris, the city continues to look calm and unchanged. Streets remain full of movement. Shops open on time. Cafés serve their regular customers. Children walk beside their parents. From the outside, life appears stable, even peaceful. There are no sudden signs of trouble, no loud warnings, no public fear. Everything seems to be working as it should. Yet beneath this smooth surface, small shifts are taking place. They are not dramatic and they do not happen all at once. They show up in tiny ways. A person who once stayed out late now leaves earlier. Someone who used to speak with energy now listens more quietly. Laughter still exists, but it feels softer, slower, less frequent. These changes are easy to overlook because they do not interrupt daily routines. People begin to rely more deeply on familiar habits. What once felt optional now feels comforting and necessary. Evenings feel incomplete without certain rituals. Nights feel longer when routines are interrupted. Still, no one speaks of concern. The city has survived war and loss. Compared to that, these changes seem small, almost insignificant. Doctors notice patterns but without alarm. The language remains calm. Terms like rest, nerves, and fatigue are used gently. Treatments continue. Adjustments are made quietly. There is no sense yet that something larger is forming. Everything appears manageable within the system as it exists. Artists and writers continue to work, though their output changes subtly. Some create less. Others repeat familiar ideas. Inspiration still comes, but not with the same sharpness. Still, no one sees this as a problem. Life feels quieter now, and quiet is welcomed after years of chaos. Paris itself seems to slow slightly. Nights stretch longer. Mornings arrive more softly. The rhythm of the city becomes gentler, almost sleepy. This change feels natural, as if the city itself is choosing rest after exhaustion. People adapt without resistance, and so the city moves forward calm and unaware. No one marks this moment as important. No one writes it down as a turning point. It is simply life continuing, one day at a time, quietly reshaping itself. As twilight settles once more over rooftops and streets glow with familiar light, Paris prepares for another night. And in this gentle, unbroken flow of days, the story continues to deepen without notice. As weeks turn into months in 1920s Paris, routines settle even deeper into everyday life. What once felt like a choice now feels like part of the structure of the day. People no longer question why certain habits exist. They simply accept them as normal. Evening arrives and the body seems to remember what it expects. Movements become automatic. Thoughts drift toward familiar comforts without conscious decision. There is no sharp moment when this change happens. It arrives softly, like fog rolling into the streets without announcement. In private rooms and quiet gatherings, repetition continues. Conversations circle the same themes. Evenings follow predictable patterns. The sense of control remains strong. People believe they are managing their lives carefully, responsibly. The routines feel orderly, not chaotic. Nothing about them appears dangerous. They fit neatly into daily schedules alongside meals, work, and rest. Some begin to notice small changes in themselves, though they struggle to name them. Emotions feel flatter. Joy is still present but muted. Sadness is dulled but not resolved. Motivation comes and goes unpredictably. Still, these feelings are easily explained away. Life is demanding. The world is still recovering. Everyone feels tired sometimes. There is comfort in knowing others feel the same. Doctors continue to provide reassurance. Adjustments are made calmly. Doses are discussed as if they are minor details. There is no language of warning, only guidance. Trust remains intact. Patients leave appointments feeling heard and supported. There is no reason to doubt the system that has brought relief so far. Outside, Paris remains beautiful and steady. The river flows as it always has. The streets glow under evening light. Music continues to drift through windows. Tourists and locals alike see only charm and culture. The city does not reveal its inner changes easily. It keeps its secrets well hidden behind art, architecture, and routine. Over time, interruptions to routine feel uncomfortable. Missed evenings feel restless. Sleep becomes lighter without familiar habits. These sensations are subtle but noticeable. People respond by returning to what feels safe and known. In this way, routine reinforces itself quietly, without resistance. There is still no sense of crisis. Life does not collapse. Work continues. Relationships remain intact. Everything functions, just more slowly, more softly. This is what makes the change difficult to see. Nothing breaks. Nothing demands attention. The shift happens entirely within the quiet spaces of daily life. As night falls once again over Paris, the city settles into its familiar glow. Windows light up one by one. Streets empty gently. Another evening begins, following the same pattern as the last. And within this calm repetition, routine has fully woven itself into the fabric of life. As time moves quietly forward in 1920s Paris, the changes that once felt small begin to appear more clearly in relationships. Friends still meet, but their gatherings feel different. Conversations drift more often into silence. People listen without responding or repeat familiar thoughts without realizing it. There is no conflict, no arguments, only a gentle thinning of connection. Everyone remains polite, calm, and composed, yet something unspoken hangs in the air. In families, routines continue as usual. Meals are shared, chores are done, children are cared for. From the outside, everything looks stable. But inside these homes, emotional distance grows subtly. Parents feel tired more often. Patience wears thin more quickly. Joy arrives less often, and when it does, it fades faster than before. These changes are rarely discussed. Life is busy, and there is always another reason to explain fatigue or distraction. Romantic relationships soften as well. Affection remains, but energy fades. Touch becomes less frequent, less intentional. Partners sit together quietly, sometimes appreciating the calm, sometimes unsure why something feels missing. There is no clear problem to fix, no argument to resolve. Just a sense that connection has grown quieter, more distant, without warning. In creative circles, collaboration slows. Artists still meet, but projects stretch on longer than planned. Inspiration comes in waves, then disappears for days at a time. Writers stare at pages longer before writing a single sentence. Musicians play familiar melodies instead of exploring new ones. Creativity does not vanish, but it loses its sharpness. Still, this change is accepted as part of aging, part of maturity, part of the times. People rarely connect these changes to their routines. The cause feels invisible. Life itself seems slower, heavier. After years of loss and rebuilding, many believe this is simply how adulthood feels. There is comfort in this explanation. It removes the need to question anything deeper. Paris continues to function smoothly. Businesses run, trains arrive on time, streets remain full. The city shows no outward sign of trouble. This normalcy reinforces the belief that everything is fine. When a society functions, people assume individuals are functioning too. As night falls again, familiar lights appear across the city. Windows glow softly. Conversations quiet down. People return to routines that feel safe and known. Relationships continue, altered but unbroken. And so, beneath the steady rhythm of Parisian life, connections slowly shift, unnoticed and unnamed. The city moves on calmly, unaware that history will one day look back at this quiet transformation with new understanding. Here, as another evening settles into stillness, this part of the story gently comes to rest. As the months pass, small observations begin to surface in 1920s Paris. They are not spoken loudly, and they are not shared widely, but they exist. A doctor notices that certain patients return more often than before. A cafe owner observes familiar faces staying longer, speaking less. A landlord hears apartments growing quieter at night. These observations do not yet form a clear picture. They sit separately, unconnected, waiting for meaning. Public discussion remains calm. Newspapers focus on politics, art, fashion, and rebuilding. There is little reason to write about private routines or personal habits. What happens inside homes and behind closed doors is not seen as public concern. Society values privacy, especially after years of war when so much was already taken away. Silence feels respectful, even protective. In medical spaces, professionals begin to compare notes quietly. They speak carefully, using neutral language. Some treatments seem less effective over time. Some patients report needing adjustments. These conversations remain internal, framed as routine medical evaluation rather than warning. No one wants to cause unnecessary fear. The intention is still care, still help, still relief. Among individuals, awareness grows slowly. A few people begin to feel unsettled by their own routines. Nights without familiar habits feel uncomfortable. Sleep becomes restless. Thoughts return more sharply than expected. These experiences are confusing, but not alarming enough to demand change. Most people choose comfort over uncertainty. The known feels safer than the unknown. Paris itself continues to glow with confidence. Visitors admire its beauty. Locals take pride in its resilience. The city is still seen as a center of culture and intelligence. This reputation reinforces the belief that life here is balanced and sophisticated. If something were wrong, surely it would be obvious, surely someone would say something. And yet quiet awareness continues to grow in small pockets. It does not spread quickly. It does not form movements or protests. It exists as thought, as pause, as hesitation. People sense something has shifted, but they cannot yet name it. Evenings return just as they always do. Lamps light the streets, doors close gently. Familiar routines resume. Awareness rests quietly beneath comfort, waiting. As Paris settles once more into the soft rhythm of night, the city continues forward, calm and composed. And in this quiet awareness, the story deepens without breaking the surface. By the time another year approaches in 1920s Paris, many people begin to feel the weight of repetition, though few describe it openly. Days blend into one another with little distinction. Mornings arrive softly, afternoons pass without urgency, and evenings settle into familiar shapes. Life feels steady but also strangely distant, as if emotions sit behind a thin curtain. Nothing feels sharply wrong, yet nothing feels fully alive either. This quiet dullness becomes part of daily existence, accepted without resistance. People reflect more during long walks along the river or while sitting alone in cafes. Thoughts drift toward the past, toward how life once felt sharper and more vivid. These reflections are not filled with panic or regret, only a gentle curiosity mixed with fatigue. Many wonder if this softness is simply adulthood or the natural result of living through difficult times. The idea that something external might be shaping these feelings rarely comes to mind. In private conversations, a few people admit feeling disconnected. They speak carefully, choosing words that do not alarm. They talk about feeling tired, unmotivated, or distant from things they once enjoyed. These conversations usually end with reassurance. Everyone feels this way sometimes. Life is complicated. Rest will help. Time will pass. And so the subject is gently closed. Medical care continues quietly, focused on maintaining balance rather than change. Adjustments are discussed calmly. Language remains gentle and professional. The goal is still comfort and function, not transformation. No one yet speaks of stepping back or reevaluating habits completely. Stability feels more important than uncertainty. Paris remains graceful through all of this. Art continues, music plays, exhibitions open. The city keeps its reputation for beauty and intelligence. Tourists see only elegance and charm. Locals move through streets with familiarity and pride. There is no outward sign of struggle, no public acknowledgement of inner shifts. As nights grow quieter and winter air cools the streets, people retreat indoors earlier. Lamps glow softly behind windows. Silence becomes comforting rather than lonely. The city feels like it is resting, conserving energy. This stillness feels intentional, almost necessary. And so reflection settles into routine just like everything else. Thoughts come and go. Questions remain unanswered. Life continues gently, without urgency, without disruption. As Paris drifts into another calm night, wrapped in familiar light and shadow, this part of the story settles into rest, waiting quietly for what comes next. As time continues to move quietly through 1920s Paris, a soft awareness begins to form in the background of daily life. It is not fear, and it is not panic. It is more like a quiet question that appears now and then, especially in moments of stillness. People notice that their routines feel heavier than they once did. The comfort they relied on does not always bring the same ease. Sleep comes, but it feels shallow. Rest exists, but it does not fully restore. These thoughts arrive slowly, often during solitary moments. A person pauses while staring out a window. Another lingers too long over an unfinished task. Someone sits in a cafe long after their cup is empty, unsure why they feel reluctant to leave. These moments are gentle and reflective. They do not demand answers. They simply exist, floating quietly through the mind. In some medical circles, conversations begin to shift slightly, not dramatically and not publicly. Professionals start to ask whether long-term comfort is always the same as long-term well-being. Records are reviewed more carefully. Observations are shared in private discussions. Still, there is caution. Change feels uncertain, and uncertainty feels risky. The system prefers calm continuity over sudden correction. Among friends, honesty appears in small doses. Someone admits they feel foggy more often than before. Another mentions feeling detached from things they used to enjoy. These confessions are met with understanding rather than alarm. Life has been hard, people say. Everyone is recovering in their own way. The explanations are comforting, and so the questions remain unanswered. Paris itself seems unchanged, steady in its beauty and rhythm. The river flows. Streets echo softly at night. Music drifts through open windows. The city does not rush. It does not react. It simply continues. This steadiness reinforces the idea that nothing urgent is happening. When the world around you appears calm, it is easy to believe everything is fine. Even so, a quiet tension begins to form beneath routine. It is not visible. It is felt. A sense that something deserves attention, even if no one knows exactly what that is yet. This feeling does not disrupt daily life. It simply waits, patient and calm, like a thought not yet ready to be spoken. As evening settles once more and the city dims into familiar light, people return to their routines with both comfort and uncertainty. Nights remain soft, streets remain quiet. Life continues as it always has. And here in this gentle space between awareness and action, the story pauses again, resting quietly as Paris slips into another peaceful night. As awareness continues to grow softly in 1920s Paris, people begin to make small adjustments without fully realizing why. These changes are gentle and personal. Someone decides to step outside more often during the day. Another chooses to walk instead of sit for long hours. A few begin to shorten their evenings, returning home earlier than before. These decisions are not dramatic. They feel natural, almost instinctive, as if the body itself is guiding them toward balance. There is no shared language yet to describe what people are experiencing. Each person feels their own version of heaviness, distance, or fatigue. Because the experiences vary slightly from one individual to another, they do not appear connected. Life continues to feel manageable even if it feels different. The absence of crisis allows people to move slowly, thoughtfully, without urgency. Medical conversations reflect this same caution. Doctors listen closely. They offer gentle advice about rest, routine, and moderation. The focus shifts subtly toward balance rather than simple relief. These changes are not announced publicly. They appear quietly in one-on-one conversations, framed as personal guidance rather than warning. Trust remains strong, and with trust comes patience. In homes, evenings grow calmer. Lamps are dimmed earlier. Conversations shorten naturally. Silence becomes less uncomfortable and more familiar. People find themselves sitting quietly, not out of sadness, but out of acceptance. Life feels quieter overall, as if the city itself is exhaling after years of intensity. Artists and writers respond in their own way. Some step back from constant creation. Others return to simpler forms of expression. The urgency to produce fades, replaced by reflection. Creativity becomes slower, more inward. This change is not viewed as loss, but as evolution. The city has matured, people tell themselves. This is what growth looks like. Paris remains beautiful through all of this. Its streets are steady. Its cafés still welcome familiar faces. Music still plays softly at night. The city does not resist change. It absorbs it quietly, allowing life to reshape itself without force. As night falls once again and the familiar glow settles over rooftops and streets, people prepare for rest with a gentler mindset. There is less expectation, less pressure to feel a certain way. Comfort comes from simplicity now, not intensity. And here, in this calm movement toward balance, this chapter of the story gently comes to rest, waiting for the next quiet shift to unfold. As another season passes in 1920s Paris, the city itself seems to soften its pace. There is no announcement and no clear reason, but life begins to feel less rushed than before. Shops still open, cafes still welcome guests, and streets remain full, yet the energy has changed. Movements are slower. Conversations pause more often. Even the sound of footsteps on stone seems gentler, as if the city has chosen to breathe more deeply. People notice that they no longer chase stimulation the way they once did. Loud nights feel tiring rather than exciting. Long conversations feel better than crowded gatherings. Many begin to prefer familiar company and quiet evenings. These preferences are not framed as loss, but as comfort. After years of intensity and uncertainty, calm feels valuable. Rest feels meaningful. Simplicity feels enough. In homes, routines adjust naturally. Lamps are turned off earlier. Windows are opened for fresh air. Chairs are moved closer to warmth and light. Families sit together in silence without feeling the need to fill it. This stillness feels safe. It does not demand anything. It allows thoughts to pass without pressure. Medical professionals continue to observe quietly. The language they use becomes more thoughtful. They speak of moderation, of listening to the body, of finding steadiness rather than escape. These ideas spread slowly, passed from one conversation to another. There is no sudden reform, only gradual understanding shaped by experience. Artists reflect this shift in their work. Paintings grow softer. Writing becomes more introspective. Music slows, favoring gentle melodies over sharp excitement. The city's creative voice does not disappear. It matures. It becomes quieter, more reflective, shaped by the desire for calm rather than intensity. Paris remains admired by the world. Visitors still see beauty, culture, and elegance. What they do not see is the internal shift happening quietly within its people. A collective movement towards stillness, guided not by fear, but by fatigue and reflection. As night arrives once more, the city settles into a deeper quiet than before. Lights glow softly. Streets empty earlier. Windows close against the cool air. Paris rests, not because it is forced to, but because it has learned the value of rest. And here, in this gentle slowing of a great city, this part of the story comes calmly to rest, wrapped in silence and soft light. As time continues to pass in 1920s Paris, a gentle distance forms between people and the habits that once felt essential. This distance is not created by force or fear. It grows naturally, shaped by reflection and fatigue. Some evenings feel different now. The familiar pull is weaker. The comfort that once promised ease does not always arrive in the same way. People notice this without panic. They simply observe it, the way one notices the changing light at the end of a long day. Memories begin to surface more clearly during quiet moments. People remember how it felt to be fully present, fully awake, fully engaged with the world. These memories are not sharp or painful. They are soft, like distant music heard through an open window. They remind people that life once felt brighter, more immediate. This remembrance does not create urgency. It creates curiosity. A quiet wondering about balance, about what has been gained and what may have been gently lost along the way. Conversations reflect this shift in subtle ways. Friends speak more honestly but still carefully. They talk about wanting more clarity, more energy, more connection to simple things. These talks are not dramatic. They end with silence, nods, and understanding rather than solutions. The goal is no longer excitement or escape. The goal is steadiness, rest that feels real, calm that does not dull the senses. In homes, evenings grow simpler still. People choose warmth over stimulation, a book instead of conversation, silence instead of noise. These choices feel intentional now, guided by awareness rather than habit. Sleep becomes a priority not just for relief, but for renewal. People want to wake feeling present again, even if that takes time. Medical guidance continues to evolve quietly. Professionals emphasize listening to the body and moving slowly toward change. There are no sudden instructions or rigid rules. Everything remains gentle and personal. Trust remains, but it is paired now with reflection. The idea of balance becomes central, replacing earlier assumptions of effortless comfort. Paris remains calm and dignified through this turning point. The city does not react dramatically. It absorbs change the way it always has, slowly, thoughtfully, with grace. Streets still glow at night. Cafés still welcome guests. Art continues to exist, shaped now by maturity and restraint. As the night settles once more over rooftops and quiet streets, Paris rests in a new kind of stillness, one shaped by experience, memory, and the desire for balance. The city breathes deeply, holding both its past intensity and its present calm together without conflict. And here, in this gentle turning of awareness and intention, this part of the story comes softly to rest, allowing the night to carry it forward into silence. By the late 1920s, Paris has learned something it never planned to learn. The city has learned how to sit with silence, not the silence of fear or emptiness, but the silence that comes after long years of intensity, noise, and searching. Streets still fill each morning. Cafés still open their doors, and art still finds its way onto canvas and paper. But there is a different feeling now, one that moves slowly and does not rush to explain itself. People walk with softer steps. Conversations pause more often. Even laughter feels quieter, as if it has learned restraint. For many individuals, daily life now includes reflection almost without effort. While sitting by a window, watching light shift across the street, people think about how their routines have changed over the years. They do not analyze deeply. They simply notice. Nights no longer stretch endlessly. Mornings arrive with less urgency. Time feels less sharp, more rounded, like edges smoothed by repetition. This feeling is neither celebrated nor rejected. It is accepted, the way weather is accepted. Medical spaces also reflect this quiet maturity. Doctors speak more slowly. Appointments feel less transactional and more thoughtful. There is more listening now, more pauses between words. Care is framed around steadiness, not escape. Around presence, not avoidance. These shifts do not arrive as rules or announcements. They arrive as tone, as attitude, as the unspoken understanding that the body remembers more than the mind admits. In homes, evenings are shaped by simplicity. Lamps glow softly. Chairs are pulled close to warmth. People sit without needing to fill the air with words. Silence becomes companionable rather than uncomfortable. Some evenings include reading. Others include nothing at all. Sleep is approached gently, without expectation of perfection. People no longer demand rest to fix everything. They allow it to be what it is. Paris itself reflects this calm acceptance. The river continues to move steadily, indifferent to human routines. Bridges stand unchanged. The city feels older now, wiser, less interested in extremes. Visitors still see beauty, but locals feel depth. The city has lived through recovery, experimentation, repetition, and quiet realization. It carries all of it without protest. What is most striking is that nothing dramatic announces this phase. There is no clear ending to what came before, and no clear beginning to what comes next. Life simply settles. Habits loosen their grip. Awareness grows without urgency. Balance becomes something people move toward naturally, not something they chase. As night falls again, Paris does not glitter as brightly as it once did, but it glows more steadily. Windows light up, streets calm. The city breathes in and out at an even pace. People prepare for rest with less expectation and more patience. The night holds them without asking anything in return. And here, in this long, quiet settling of a city and its people, the story continues gently onward, unforced and unhurried, ready to carry us deeper into calm reflection as the night grows still. As Paris moves deeper into the late 1920s, something quiet but meaningful settles into the daily lives of its people. The city no longer seems interested in escaping itself. In earlier years, life had been filled with movement, distraction, and a constant search for something to soften the sharp edges of memory and emotion. Now, that urgency fades. People begin to live slowly, not because they are forced to, but because they no longer feel the need to rush away from their own thoughts. This shift does not happen overnight. It unfolds gently, one ordinary day at a time. Morning routines feel calmer and more deliberate. People wake without the same restless energy that once pushed them toward the day. Breakfast is eaten slowly, sometimes in silence, sometimes with soft conversation. The streets fill as they always have, yet the pace feels gentler. Faces carry less tension. There is less effort to appear lively or interesting. Simply being present feels sufficient. This is not happiness in the dramatic sense, but a quieter form of acceptance. Work continues, but ambition softens. Tasks are completed steadily rather than urgently. People pause more often, stepping outside for fresh air, watching clouds move across the sky, noticing small details they once ignored. These moments of attention feel grounding. They reconnect people to the physical world, to time passing naturally, rather than being pushed forward. In the evenings, the change becomes even clearer. Nights no longer need to be filled to feel meaningful. The idea that every hour must be occupied fades away. Some people still visit cafés, but they stay for shorter periods. Others choose to walk along familiar streets, listening to their own footsteps echo softly. Many return home earlier, not out of exhaustion, but out of preference. Home feels calm now, not restrictive. Inside apartments, silence becomes a gentle presence. Lamps glow softly. Windows are cracked open to let in night air. People sit with their thoughts without needing to push them away. Memories come and go. Some are heavy, some are light. None demand immediate action. This ability to sit with feeling without urgency or escape marks a quiet turning point in daily life. Medical care reflects this shift as well. Conversations focus less on removing discomfort and more on understanding it. Professionals speak about listening to the body, about patience, about gradual change. There is less emphasis on immediate solutions and more on long-term steadiness. This change feels natural, aligned with the broader rhythm of the city. Paris itself feels settled, almost reflective. It no longer tries to prove anything to the world. Its beauty remains, but it is understated. The glow of street lamps feels warmer than brighter lights ever did. The river moves steadily, unchanged by human habits. The city seems to suggest that life does not need to be intensified to be meaningful. As night deepens, People prepare for rest without expectations. Sleep is not demanded to erase everything or fix everything. It is allowed to arrive gently, in its own time. Bodies relax. Thoughts slow. Breathing evens out. The city grows quiet, not because it is empty, but because it is content to be still. And here in this long, gentle phase of living without escape, Paris and its people settle into a deeper calm. The story does not end here. It continues softly, carried forward by patience, awareness, and the quiet comfort of simply being present. As the nights in Paris grow longer and quieter, people begin to understand something they once found difficult to accept. Rest does not need to be earned through exhaustion, nor does calm need to be justified by productivity. This realization settles slowly, without excitement or celebration. It appears in the way people stop apologizing for being tired, and in the way they allow themselves to sit still without feeling guilty. Life no longer feels like something that must be constantly managed. It feels like something that can be lived gently. Mornings now arrive without pressure. The city wakes not with urgency, but with routine. Windows open gradually. Sounds drift in from the street below. A cart passes. Footsteps echo. The day begins as it always has, yet people meet it with softer expectations. There is less desire to shape the day into something impressive. Simply moving through it feels enough. This change is subtle, but it reshapes how time is experienced. During the day, pauses become more common. People stop what they are doing just to breathe, to look, to listen. These pauses are not planned. They happen naturally, guided by instinct rather than intention. The world feels less demanding when attention is allowed to drift gently, rather than being forced into focus. Even work feels lighter when it is no longer tied to constant urgency. Evenings reflect this acceptance even more clearly. There is no longer a sense that night must provide escape or transformation. Night is simply night, a time to lower lights, slow movements, and prepare for rest. Cafés close earlier, streets empty sooner, homes feel warmer, quieter, more contained. The boundary between day and night becomes softer, more fluid. Inside these quiet homes, people reconnect with their bodies in simple ways. They notice tension easing, breathing slowing, muscles relaxing. Sleep is approached without fear of wakefulness. Even if rest does not arrive immediately, the struggle against it fades. Being awake at night no longer feels like failure. It feels like part of being human. Medical conversations now emphasize patience more than ever. Professionals speak about rhythms, cycles, and long views. The idea that healing happens gradually becomes central. There is less concern with control and more respect for natural processes. This perspective aligns with the broader shift happening across the city. Paris itself seems to mirror this understanding. The city feels less reactive, more grounded. It does not chase novelty. It does not resist stillness. Its beauty feels quieter but deeper, like something that reveals itself only to those who slow down enough to notice. As night settles fully, the city becomes a field of soft light and shadow. Windows glow dimly. Streets hum faintly. The air feels still. People lie down without demanding sleep to solve everything. They allow the night to hold them as it will. And here, in this gentle acceptance of rest without fear, the story continues its slow unfolding, guiding us deeper into calm, patience, and the quiet comfort of simply allowing life to be as it is. By now, the rhythm of Paris has changed in a way that no one ever formally decided. Time itself seems softer, less demanding. Days no longer feel like something to conquer or complete. Instead, they feel like something to move through slowly, gently, without resistance. People wake, work, walk, eat, and rest, but none of these actions feel urgent anymore. Even the passing of hours feels quieter, as if the clock itself has learned to lower its voice. Many people notice that their thoughts have slowed. Not disappeared, not emptied, but slowed enough to be less overwhelming. Ideas arrive one at a time instead of all at once. Memories surface without force. Emotions feel less sharp, more rounded. This change is not dramatic, but it is deeply felt. It allows people to exist inside their own minds without feeling the need to escape them. Silence inside the head becomes easier to tolerate, even comforting. During long afternoons, people find themselves sitting still without distraction. A person may sit near a window, watching shadows shift across the floor. Another may walk slowly along familiar streets, noticing small details that once went unseen. These moments do not feel wasted. They feel necessary. They restore something that had been slowly worn down by years of tension and intensity. Work continues, but it no longer defines the entire day. When tasks are finished, people stop instead of searching for more to fill the time. Rest is no longer postponed. It is allowed to exist alongside effort, not after it. This balance feels unfamiliar at first, but quickly becomes natural. The body responds by relaxing. Breathing deepens, shoulders lower. The nervous system begins to settle. Evenings grow longer and quieter. People are less interested in filling the night with activity. They choose dim light over brightness, warmth over stimulation, familiarity over novelty. Sitting quietly becomes an act of care rather than avoidance. There is no sense of boredom, only a gentle awareness of being present. Sleep arrives differently now. It is not forced and it is not chased. People lie down without expectation. Some nights sleep comes quickly. Other nights it takes time. Both are accepted without frustration. The fear of wakefulness fades. Being awake at night no longer feels like failure. It feels like part of a natural rhythm that does not need correction. Paris at night reflects this acceptance beautifully. Streets glow faintly. Sounds are distant and softened. The city feels held together by calm rather than energy. Even the air seems heavier, slower, more still. The city no longer pushes its people forward. It allows them to pause. In this stage of life, nothing dramatic happens. And that is exactly the point. Healing does not arrive as a single event. It arrives as a long, quiet settling, a gradual release of tension, a softening of time, a willingness to stay where you are without needing to go anywhere else. And here, within this deep calm where life stops pushing back and simply allows itself to flow, this part of the story stretches gently onward, carrying the listener deeper into rest, stillness, and the slow comfort of night. By this point, life in Paris feels as if it has finally stopped asking questions. The city no longer searches for meaning, excitement, or escape. It simply exists, steady and unhurried. Time stretches gently through the streets, through homes, through the quiet spaces inside people's minds. Nothing needs to be fixed. Nothing needs to be explained. There is a deep sense that everything has already settled into its place, even if no one can say exactly when that happened. People now move through their days with a softness that feels earned. Morning light enters rooms slowly, touching walls and floors without urgency. The sounds of the city arrive gently, never demanding attention. People rise when they are ready. They eat when they are hungry. They speak when there is something to say and remain silent when there is not. Life feels less like a series of decisions and more like a continuous flow. During the day, attention drifts naturally between inner and outer worlds. A person may watch dust move through sunlight and feel content doing nothing else. Another may sit quietly, listening to distant sounds without labeling them. Thoughts come and go like passing clouds. They are noticed but not followed. There is no pressure to solve them. This ease allows the mind to rest even while awake. As evening approaches, the transition into night feels smooth and unforced. Lights are dimmed without thought. Curtains are drawn slowly. The city seems to exhale as a whole. Cafés close gently. Streets empty without drama. The world becomes smaller, quieter, more contained. People return home not because they are tired, but because home feels right. Inside these quiet spaces, the night begins its work. Bodies relax, breathing deepens, muscles loosen. There is no rush towards sleep, only an openness to it. Some people lie awake for a while, listening to the stillness. Others drift quickly into rest. Both experiences feel equally acceptable. The night does not judge. It does not demand. It simply holds. Paris itself seems to sleep with its people. The river flows quietly. Bridges stand in silence. Street lamps glow faintly, like distant stars brought closer to earth. The city feels wrapped in a blanket of calm. Nothing stirs that does not need to. Everything feels supported by the darkness rather than threatened by it. In this final stage of our journey, there is no lesson to learn and no conclusion to reach. Life has softened enough to speak for itself. The need to escape has faded. The need to control has loosened. What remains is presence, patience, and the quiet understanding that rest is not something to achieve but something to allow. And here, as the night deepens and the city rests completely within its own stillness, the story does not end. It simply fades, slowly and gently, into silence. The kind of silence that carries you forward, weightless and calm, towards sleep that arrives in its own perfect time. Now the city has reached a place where nothing more needs to be added. Paris no longer asks its people to understand it, explain it, or move through it with intention. It simply exists, and that existence is enough. The streets, once filled with urgency and searching, now hold only gentle movement. Even memory feels softer here, like something wrapped carefully and placed away without fear of losing it. People lie awake sometimes, not because sleep avoids them, but because stillness feels unfamiliar in its kindness. The mind drifts slowly, revisiting moments without attachment. Faces from years ago appear briefly and fade again. Sounds from the city echo faintly and dissolve into silence. There is no need to follow any of it. Thoughts no longer pull the body forward or backward. They pass like distant trains heard at night, present but not demanding. Breathing slows on its own. No effort is required. The chest rises and falls in an easy rhythm, guided by the quiet around it. Muscles soften, especially the ones that have been held tight for years without being noticed. The jaw relaxes, shoulders sink downward. The body begins to remember that it is safe to rest, that nothing needs to be guarded anymore. Outside, Paris barely moves. A single light remains on in an upper window. Somewhere far away, a door closes gently. The river continues its endless motion, unchanged by time or story. The city does not reflect on its past. It carries it quietly, without judgment, without pride. It simply allows night to be night. Time stretches here in a way that feels different from before. Minutes do not stack on top of each other. They widen instead, creating space rather than pressure. There's no need to mark them, no need to count. The night does not ask to be measured, it only asks to be entered. Sleep approaches slowly, not as an event but as a soft merging. Awareness blurs at the edges. Sounds lose their shape. Thoughts no longer finish themselves. There is nothing left to hold on to, and nothing left to let go of. The body floats gently between waking and rest, supported entirely by stillness. Paris rests fully now. Its streets, its rooms, its memories, all lying quietly together under the same dark sky. The story you have been listening to no longer needs words. It becomes part of the background, like breath, like night air, like the distant hum of a world that continues without asking you to stay awake for it. And as this part of the story continues to soften and fade, there is nothing you need to do. No listening, no effort. Just allow the night to carry you the rest of the way.